Gabrielle Bonneville, welcome to Being. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is really exciting. So, the first time we met, I believe, was in Bali about 2 years ago at an event called Unconventional Life, where you and your Momentom Collective were present and performing. And it was just an absolutely stunning performance. Just the energy that you and your tribe brought to the event was amazing. And it really struck me and stuck with me. So, I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. I didn't even remember that we had met in Bali. I thought that we had met just this time in Costa Rica.
Yeah, well,
But now that you say it, it's true.
there was a lot of people at that event, so I'm not surprised. But yes, we just were at another event in Costa Rica called Visionaries Immersion, which was fantastic as well, at which you performed, and we had a great conversation there as well. So looking forward to this conversation today. So I just want to begin, and I'd love to ask people about their journey. Like, how have you arrived in this moment? What has your life experience been? What's your childhood been like to bring you to this moment in time?
Oh, wow, what a great question. Mm. And I landed in this human body, and I don't remember if it was a choice or if it was like an invitation from universe, but I woke up with 10 fingers and 10 toes, and I was like, all right, I'm in for a ride.
Here we go.
Yeah. And it has been the most beautiful ride. It's had a lot of challenges and peaks and depths, but it's brought me to understand something about existence, that is that we're basically just here to be in love with whatever is in front of us. It was very confusing for me growing up, because there was a lot of polarities in my life. Like, I grew up in a very cold place in Quebec called Sept-Îles, and no one spoke English. It was like very French, and it was so fucking cold all the time. and then at the same time, my mother is from Venezuela.
Oh,
So
wow.
we would fly from Quebec into Caracas, and then going into this private island called Margarita, where it was like extremely hot, and everyone were like dancing all the time and joyful and singing and alive. And then we would from back and forth in these realities, and I realized that the only question that really mattered was, who am I within the polarities? Who am I in Gaby within the two spectrums of these polarities? And so I've been playing a lot with finding myself throughout my life, in the polarities that come into my path. And one of these has been, for anybody that knows me, would be the circus aspect of things, because the circus is really about like self-expression. And at the same time, I also dove really deep into yogic philosophy. So the idea of going introspection into yourself. So there's been so many series of events that have led me to who I am right now. And I could tell the story of how I went to university and how I got the job at the United Nations or whatnot. But really, at the end of the day, what got me here is this like unfathomable curiosity about who I am and what my purpose here in this world is, So, and I'm still figuring it out.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful vision, though. Like that idea of polarity and that showed up and manifest for you as hot and cold in different places as a child, and different cultures as well. It's so interesting how you mapped that into sort of your outer experience and your inner experience. That's so amazing. I'd love to dive more into that. So you got into circus performing and also yoga. So how did those two things manifest in your life?
hmm So the circus component came into my life when the political situation in Venezuela exploded,
Mm,
with a certain Hugo Chavez, where my family had to flee from Venezuela.
mm,
So my father, who had, the ability to help support financially the family to migrate from Venezuela, they had this open door to come into this wonderful country,
Mm.
even if it's really cold and they
Yeah.
might not have been used to it. But when they, but when they arrived, can you imagine, like, you arrive into this foreign country and you don't have the education component that people here have, masters and PhDs, and even money to be able to afford the schooling here.
Mm.
So the circus was what my family went into
Oh, wow.
immediately. Yeah. So we have, in my generation, we have about 4 or 5 cousins. One of them went directly into handstanding. So the idea of balancing.
Mm.
And for him, it was really about finding peace within himself in the movement of his life, of going from his home base, his culture, his family, to this foreign land. So he found balance through handstanding and inversions, and he started
Mm.
touring all over Canada. And then another cousin went into clowning, and this is something I might want to dive a little bit deeper with you, because of just
Please.
how, it's clowning is by far the most powerful transformative discipline in circus arts, because of how deep it requires you to go within yourself to express through emotions a story that is living within you, but that you want to express in connection to your audience.
Wow.
So for example, like Isaac, who was really traumatized from a few like incidents that happened in Venezuela. He had been kidnapped, for example, in a secuestro express, what they call in Venezuela. When he wanted to heal that trauma, he would create a story, a narrative that he would then display and perform through sacred clowning, and then be able to use really dark and deep and negative, dense energy, and use humor to heal his trauma, but also for other people to relate to an experience that they might not otherwise ever experience as these safe Canadians in their homes.
Wow.
So
That just gave me chills hearing that story. I've never heard the art of clowning expressed like that. That's amazing. The fact that you can tune into that sort of dark negative energy and express it in a way that is healing for you, but also translates as entertainment for an audience, and inviting them through humor to tap into their own darkness to be healed. Right?
exactly, but
Wow.
the word entertainment is, I think it's more about relating. It's
Okay.
about being able to say, like, this happened. So we'll be able to relate through humor, and then we'll be able to navigate and dance through all of the different arrays of emotions that I have lived, and I'll take you in for the ride. But I've opened that gate through humor so that now you can come on the ride with me,
Mm.
and now we can be connected. You know?
Wow, that is so powerful. Wow, this is so intriguing and interesting to me as well. Wow. So the Momentum Collective, how did that begin, and what's its mission?
Well, that's exactly, yeah. It started from that, from me witnessing my cousins going through their journey and finding circus, and so going home was always amazing. It was always
Mm.
like handstanding and acro and clowning and this and that, and then all of a sudden, though, I did a yoga teacher training. That's what happened,
Okay.
because I wasn't in the circus. I wasn't in the circus. I was working in the United Nations. I was doing the good girl job of making money. And I'd always wanted to help humanity. That was the
Right,
thing. And I thought that the best way to do that would be to do it through the United Nations, because that was what their mandate is, right? To help humanity.
right.
But I soon realized that the system was kind of like not so, I don't know. It wasn't conducive to that type of energetic healing that I was hoping for. Anyway,
Mm.
long story short, I ended up doing a yoga teacher training, and I realized that on the other side of the self-expression and the radiance and the, like, being so super radically seen, was this part of you that no one has access to but yourself.
Mm.
This part of you that is presence, that is undeniably you.
Mm.
And it became very clear that, in contrast to circus, I could go deeper within myself, and then come out and express more. And the more I
Mm.
expressed out and allowed myself to get out of my own way, I would go back in and go deeper. And I was like, oh shit, this is the same thing. And this is when we talk about self actualization. What if we created a life and a reality where we explored introspection and self expression every day? What would happen? What would
Yes.
happen?
Oh, it's beautiful. This is amazing. I'm so resonating with this, and it applies to my life as we speak. Like that idea that you you were gravitated towards the UN because you felt a draw to wanted to make a difference in the world, and that seemed like a good avenue to explore it. You got there, and maybe the system and the bureaucracy and the politics of it were not enabling you to express yourself or to make that kind of impact in the world that you were looking for. So you came back to yourself, and that is so powerful because I think many of us, are drawn to who want to make a difference in the world or who care about making the difference in the world, want to go out and fight those fights. That we want to go to the front lines. We want to be activists. We want to go to the UN, and that's not necessarily the truest path for each individual. And so that idea of coming back to the self and introspecting and then self-expressing as a way to heal yourself and then have the most impact on others to do the same is super powerful and something I'm exploring in myself at this moment. So thank you for that
Mm.
reflection. That's really resonating with me.
I love it, and I'm so curious to know what it is that you're doing
Yeah.
to explore.
Well, I'll
I
just
mean,
tell you the short story is I was in music for a long time because I still am, but music has been my calling, my sort of vehicle for self-expression and recognizing how powerful it is as a medium to affect people. Like everybody resonates with music, you know. So, but I was working for corporations. I was writing for TV shows and for commercials and stuff, and so I was basically whoring out my talent to corporations. And when I began
mhm,
this sort of
mm,
personal transformation path of going deeper inward, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't resonate for me. I'm like, I'm using all of my talent, my energy, and my time to sell people products that they don't really want. I'm like, well, so I sort of rejected it. And in that moment, like this is only a few years ago, I got invited to a retreat and as the musician, and it was a retreat for the Association of Transformational Leaders. And there's all these powerful coaches and yoga people and just transformational people and our artists as well. And the level of energy and frequency and vibe and presence that came from these people was so powerful. I'm like, okay, here's a place that I can make a difference in the world. So it was kind of being drawn to a
mm,
UN type of calling. So I've gone into coaching, but it hasn't really landed in the way that I was hoping for, in the same way that you arrived at the UN. And it's
mm,
not because of politics. It's just like, okay, but why is that? So I'm out in the world trying to help people, but I'm not honoring my art as, like you were saying, as the vehicle for going deeper in myself. Right. And so I'm sort of coming back to this idea. Okay, I want to have music as a more a central focus in my life in order for me to show up more powerfully as a coach and a leader,
mm,
right? Because the more
mm,
I go into myself and I remove whatever the noise or distortion is that's clogging my creative channel, right? And that could be trauma or limiting beliefs or whatever. My unconscious, alcohol was a big part of my life as well. But the more I
mm.
release those things, the more I can express myself into the world that actually makes the most maximum impact. Does that make sense? That was a bit convoluted.
Aho. No,
Oh.
it makes so much sense. One of our, I think music in general, like there's introspection, which is, there's like a buffet of ways that you can go inside,
Yeah.
like breath work,
Yeah.
meditation, mindfulness,
Yeah.
just in general, internally, it's like a never ending well. And then
Totally.
expression, the self-expression, it grew from like circus of being able to perform and to be in aerial silks or to do clowning. But then we started doing like authentic relating
Right.
and nonviolent communication. And then all of a sudden you can see that you can actually channel, you can like carve like Play-Doh, the channel that you want, because it will orient the experience of the life that you are living if you are
Mm.
conscious about the expression of who you are.
Mm.
And music, though, Patrick, music, that's the bridge between the unseen and the seen world.
Oh,
That is
wow.
when we put sound into vibration. And for me,
Yes.
music is is the conduit, and that's why we opened up a residency that's like only music production and sound healing. That's all we do for a month. That's all we do.
I love it. I want to come.
You should come.
I totally will.
Yeah, you should come.
Beautiful. Wow. So yeah, molding your creative channel to whoever wants to express is so powerful. And I think one of the reasons a lot of people don't do this is it's terrifying to go outside of your comfort zone in either direction. Like most people are scared of public speaking or the outwardly expression. But I think the same is true of going inward. People are scared of going inward. That was definitely true of me for many, many years. Because I was, first of all, I was scared of how much power is there because I knew how powerful I was. But I also I was scared of expressing that true creative power because I knew there would be ridicule or criticism or judgment, you know. So I sort of kept it in the shadows, right? And so we tend to, especially in Western culture, we tend to exist in this narrow band of existence. We never get too high in our expression, or we never go too deep into our souls, you know. And so it's this narrow band, and it's so boring, you know. But it's also people stay there because it's comfortable and it's what everybody else is doing. It's safe, right? And we crave safety and certainty. But the real essence, the real vivid nature of life is outside of those boundaries, right? So we have to summon that courage to go to those places, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's painful, because the connection, the robustness of life outside of those boundaries is what we're here for, is to experience those things, right?
Absolutely. And I think that the psyche has a membrane, and we want to be mindful of how we train for acrobatics as well. We're gonna know our limit, and then we're gonna push just a little bit, so that then we can restore, and then we get stronger, and then we move. So it's not there's certain people in my life, for example, my partner Julian, who like really pushes to the other edge. Like he'll like jump out of a plane or like do highlining. But for him, his membrane psyche has been so stretched throughout the years that he's able to jump so far on either spectrum.
Totally.
You know, going to a 10-day meditation or whatnot. But if you've never meditated a day in your life, we want to take it. I would recommend for us to create habits first on being able to nurture the fear into something that is tangible for us to become a little bit more and more fearless, you know?
Totally.
So for example, in the residencies, what we do is that we wake up 6:30 in the morning, everyone's meditating.
Right.
Just meditate for 1 month, meditate every morning.
Yeah.
Move once a day, and talk about your vision once a day. What happens if you do this every single day for 1 month? Then you create the habits in your life, and then you become the habits that before they used to be difficult. You could never conceive on doing something outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
But now that you've become habitually comfortable on just pushing that edge just a little bit more, that when it comes to doing those things that are really, really scary, then you've already trained yourself, because you are the culmination of your habits.
Yes.
So make sure to have good habits. That's it. That's all. Right.
I love that. Yeah. No, that's a great reminder, is that you don't have to go like so far out of your comfort zone that it's just insanity. You can just push it a little bit and just practice going outside and coming back, going outside and coming back, until you develop capacity. And then one day you'll get to Julian's level where you can go, you know, it's so elastic, you can stretch it in either direction. And that's, you know, there's so much value in that. But like you said, habits day to day and meditation. Wow, what a powerful tool. I can't go, you know, if I go 2 or 3 days now without meditating, I start to feel it's like, I start to float away. It's like that grounding presence that really roots me in my creative channel and my center, my truest being, you know? So powerful. Amazing. So what's Momentom Collective up to right now? Can you tell us a little bit more about what it is, in case people don't understand?
Sure. Yeah, so it's a collective. So the idea of momentum is like moment om. So it's like the momentum of circus arts and self-expression, and then the om moments of anything to do with plant medicine and meditation and introspection, right? So we really
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
I didn't
what
understand
we do
that.
is we
Yeah,
create.
that's great.
Not many people do, actually. But at the end of the day, we're a collective. And what we mean by collective is a group of people that have a common vision. And if we were to label these humans, they would be healers, artists, and entrepreneurs. And we've noticed that these three in combination in the same room, they take care of themselves. They really do. They're able to share their own passion, and then they're able to like become a holistic versions of themselves, because they have the components for each other to be able to thrive, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it totally does. Yeah, I can totally
Uh-huh.
feel that. So what is the vision of Momentum Collective? What's your
So the
mission?
idea is that we wanted to create like these alternate realities within the world where people go to create habits. So we call them residencies, and people stay there for 30 days, and then they commit to themselves to going through the program. And when they come to our places, our residencies, we provide all of the food, all of the accommodations, all the workshops, and then all the plant medicine ceremonies, and obviously access to all of the events, the ecstatic dances and whatnot. And so we make it super easy for you not to think about anything else other than just getting to your class. Get to your class. And so we have a program that we've designed for each residency that goes into meditation in the morning, yoga, going into movement, and then into self-development. So the self-development bit, that's what gets really interesting, because each residency, we have 6 now. Each residency, the self-development component is a little bit different than the other. So for example, the one in Punta Mona that we do with Steven, that one's on permaculture and sustainable living. So in the afternoons, we're learning about herbalism. We're learning about regenerative farming. We're learning about conscious communities. We're learning how to build communities. We're learning how to build in general. So we spend the mornings developing ourselves, and then the afternoon developing our visions.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a hoot, Patrick, because we get to be so creative over the alternate realities that we want to be creating. So like we've got a music production one. We have the sustainable living one. We have the one for choreography and performance. We have one in Portugal that's coming up that is called the Balance Residency. And that's everything to do with balancing the mind and the spirit. So it's like handstanding, acro, highlining. And then we're bringing in experts, and get this, we're bringing in experts in Kybalion and Hermetic law.
Wow.
So that we can understand, we can understand the polarities of existence through Hermetic law, so that we can introduce them into our meditation, which we do 2 hours a day.
Whoa, that's so powerful, man. I love it. I totally want to come. I totally want to come. A question that came up though, like that sounds amazing. This immersive experience where people commit for 30 days and they create new habits, they create new routines. How do people normally manage, such a peak experience when they have to go back to maybe their more mundane lives? How do they maintain the momentum?
It's a great question. It's the number one question that we get with all residents. The idea is that a lot of people come back. We have a huge return rate, like 90% of people
Of
come
course,
back.
it sounds incredible.
Once a year.
Yeah.
So it's a reset. It's a top up a lot. It's like a top up. And the idea is that if we're culminating our beliefs and our habits, so that wherever that we are, whether we're in the middle of the Sahara or in Palestine, we want to create this bubble of energy that is who we are, that is cultivated through perception and surrender. Like the release of expectations for your external environment. It works, for a while, but I think we also have this weird thing in our bodies as humans that we have a tendency to mimic our environment. So when people get back to the city, I don't know what's up with that, but we unconsciously start thinking like the city. It's like, and I don't know if this is a belief that I could eliminate, but I've noticed it. I've worked with thousands of humans or throughout my career with Momentum. And it seems like when we're in the jungle, there's a mindset that we mimic the jungle. When we're in the city, we mimic the city. So sometimes people just end up like really losing that work that they've done in Momentum, and then they want to come back, top up, and then go back to the city, which is really the next level of my creation for Momentum. Is that at this point I want to create a permanent community, a permanent location where people can be living there if they so choose for 1 to 6 to 12 months if they want to, because I do think that it is a downfall for us to be always renting out venues that aren't ours, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And at this point, we are ready. We are definitely ready so that we don't have to always go back to the city, that we
Yes.
don't have to have that option as the only go to, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
But I just have like, I think that continuing to train in your passion, no matter where you are, is going to be a gift for yourself.
Mm,
Continuing to meditate, no matter if there's a storm going on.
totally.
So meditation and passion are the two keys that I think no matter where you are outside of residency, this is your safe zone, you know?
Yes. No, totally. I think you nailed it right there at the end. You can still be cultivating that inner world regardless of what your external circumstances are, right? And that is so
Exactly.
powerful. So when people do go back to the city, maintaining that introspection and the cultivation of your inner world is so important. But I agree with you. We do take on the energy of our environment. Whether that's the question that came up for me though, is whether that's like a learned pattern from living there in the past that you just slip back into, or are you actually picking up on an energy that's present in the field of other people in the city itself, or vice versa in the jungle? That's an interesting question. I think it's probably a little bit of both. There's some old patterns that
Yeah.
that you pick up on, but there's also the energy of the jungle or the energy of the city, which are totally different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that as energy beings living in close quarters, we do tap into the morphogenetic field,
Mm,
that there is this collective consciousness that happens when many people are in the same place. I think we have a morphogenetic field for the planet, we have a
mm,
morphogenetic field for a community, we have a morphogenetic field for a family. So I think for me, it's also commute. That's where we really dive into community and why community is so important, because
mm.
if we are the combination of the 5 people we hang out with the most, you've heard that
Of
saying.
course.
It's an interesting belief. I
Yeah.
think it's a true one. It does resonate in truth for me. So who are you hanging out with?
Yeah.
Who are you hanging out with? Who are you sharing opinions with and taking on opinions? And so at the end of the day, you want to be surrounding yourself with people who inspire that higher self within you.
Totally.
And that's where in the city, it's like it gets really lost. You're with a million people. So you're like, where are my people?
Yes.
Where are my people?
Yes. I think you're totally right. And in general, we need to be moving back to more tribal living, more connection with nature, more community, because that's how we evolved for hundreds of thousands of years before we started this whole civilization experiment, right? And that's not going so well. So something has to change, and that's one of the big reasons I'm going to retreats like the one we were just at. There's this sense of community that you feel when you're actually with people for a number of days, not just a fleeting superficial experience, and you really connect with them like on a deep level. Like you're doing, it's not just like
Mhm.
a business conference where you're just like shaking hands and exchanging business cards. It's no, like you're looking in people's eyes, you're feeling their
Yep, the big
energy.
one.
That is so powerful. You're dancing together, you're meditating together, and like feeling the energy of that container is so powerful. And like you said, it's the future of humanity in community, like with each other and
Mhm.
with nature, because we've lost our
Mhm.
connection to nature as well. Mankind is just like, oh, we're above nature, we can just exploit it for resources and turn it into trash basically, and that's not working out for us either. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, so
Mhm.
some of the biggest problems on earth, I think, stem from our disconnection from ourselves, from our community, and from nature. Going into that
Mhm.
ego mind where there's a disconnection between our community and our connection with nature. So powerful, the work you're doing. So just tell me a little bit more about the community that you're envisioning. When is that getting going? Like,
Mm.
are you building it now?
Mhm.
What's going on?
So the main ingredients that are non-negotiable
Yeah,
are rich soil so that we can grow our own food.
of
Thank you,
course.
Punta Mona, for teaching us all of that. We're
Right,
also vegan and vegetarian communities, so
right.
we love the idea of health. So like,
Yeah,
how can we have the most amount of nutrition and intention in our food? So
totally.
rich soil. clean water. I want to like drink water from a waterfall if I so choose to every single morning.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
Um, and good air. So I think that so the idea would be to have we're actually thinking about having two permanent locations. One is in Ometepe.
Oh,
It's
great.
on a volcanic island. You know it, eh? Have
Yeah,
you heard of it?
Nicaragua, right?
Uh-huh. It's
Yes.
an island in an infinity shape. It has two volcanoes, one masculine, one feminine, and it's apparently the Mayans used to go there from Mexico and Guatemala to go and do some of their deepest rituals there. Nobody really
Wow.
knows why, you know? So
Wow.
there's this like, so anyway, so we've been there for a few years on this island, and we want to have a small home base there so that we can start kind of experimenting how to do the construction that we have in mind, which I'll get into in a second.
Mm.
But the second one is obviously Costa Rica. You've been there. Costa Rica's got something, eh?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
wow.
amazing. Yeah. I'm here
It's
now. It's
the
incredible.
biodiversity is astounding. It's so rich. It's like just the noises, like the silence of Costa Rica is filled with richness, you know?
Totally.
It's,
There's
you
no
know what
such
I'm
thing as
saying? It's like
silence.
never,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as
Yeah.
silence. It's like the wind is talking, the jungle is talking, the
The
animals,
ocean. Yeah.
the ocean. So we're looking into getting involved in a community that's already being developed, so that
Mm.
we can come in and introduce our what we're good at, which is arts and healing.
Mm.
And the idea is that in all of our permanent locations, which for now is going to be two, there would be four components to the community. One would be movement arts, which is what we're bringing in the most.
Mm.
Then we would be bringing in music, so spaces that is conducive for sonic exploration. You
Mm.
know, and we want to be working with people like yourself, like Parangi, like some of the most amazing musicians in the world. We want to be bringing them in so that they
Awesome.
can help us design spaces for sonic exploration.
Amazing.
And then there would be visual arts. So anything to do with graffiti or visual painting, anything to do with the eyes, you know, of creating with in terms of visual art.
Mm.
And then the last one would be healing. So anything to do with like we're imagining having machines for neurofeedback or
Mm.
massage therapy, and then also obviously plant medicine, which
Mm.
we do explore within the community with uh, shamans and people that you know have experience in administrating this type
Of
of
course.
medicine for people. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but it's still a work in progress. Right now we're looking for, we have two different arrays. We have the commercial components, which is like to build out these spaces that would be for the use of all of the collective, and then we have the residential component, which would be Patrick wants a house.
Right.
He has $120,000. We build a house hand in hand with our architects, and then Patrick has access to the waterfalls, the permaculture garden, all of the
Mm.
collective
I
spaces.
love it.
So that's what we've got. And yeah, just sacred geometry everywhere. I'm just imagining like spaces that are designed for deep meditation just by being inside the space, and you don't even know what's going on, you know?
Yes. Wow, that sounds incredible. I would love to be involved. I think we're going to have to talk after the show.
I know. I figured.
Awesome. I wanted to ask you, and I
Mhm.
ask this of every artist or everybody actually that I interview about creativity, because it's been a question I've sort of pondered. Where does creativity come from? Like, what is the origin of creativity? Like, I've heard so many different answers. Like, it comes from, I'm not going to say actually. I'm just going to leave it and let you respond. Like, is it an internal genesis, external? Where does creativity come from?
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. You know, I think subconsciously we're always creating
Mm,
anyway. It's
mm,
not something that we actually have control over. We are creative beings.
yes.
In every single moment, there's an infinity of choices. There's choice right now with the words that I use and the intonation that I use and the way that I look at you.
Yes.
In every moment, there's an infinite amount of option. And I choose to create these words and this way and this method right now so that I'm creating this present moment.
Yes.
But if I just start talking like this and I'm not really thinking about it, I'm just doing it like this, it's still subconsciously, I'm still creating.
Yes.
So I think consciousness really is the creative force that we have to go to the places where we want to be going. But if we're not using our consciousness to kind of like filter and create the spaces where we want to be going, then we're still going to be creating regardless.
Yes.
So, but the question of where it comes from, I mean, I don't even know if I want to know.
I don't think it's knowable, even if we wanted to, but it's fun to think about. It's fun to ponder.
It is. It is a nice sensation to think that where would it come from? But at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm meant to know this right now. And I'm totally okay with it because it means I'm just like a kid playing in this playground and I'm just exploring,
Totally. And that's it. That's all you need to know, really. It's just getting out of your own way, as far as I can tell. I'm actually reading a book by Osho called Creativity, and I'm only a few chapters in, but I was reading last night. Yeah, it's amazing. But he describes it as like you were saying, everybody's creative, and you're creating whether you know it or not. But in order to tap into it and really be conscious of it, it's a more of an active removing, like we were talking about, the ego gets in the way, right? It's like, and there's a meditation that he recommends, like imagine yourself as a hollow piece of bamboo where you remove anything that's inside of you and create space for the divine to enter. Right. And that's where creativity exists, or it comes from. It's like you're getting out of your own humanness, your own ego, getting out of your own way and allowing source energy or God or divine or whatever you want to call it to channel through you. And that's where creativity comes from. You become, and then how it manifests into the world depends on who you are as an individual, unique being, right? So that's why each of us can create differently. Not all of us are going to be Picasso, or not all of us are going to be Gaby Bonneville, or, but we all can create. And that means you're being creative in everything you're doing, whether it's speaking or, taking care of your kids or doing the dishes. We're always creating in some way. Right. But in order to fully enjoy it and be in that presence of that creativity, we have to remove the barriers to it, which is the ego and the trauma and everything covering it up. That's how I kind of view it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thank Osho.
God, two things on that. But the other day I had this download when I was running, and it was that there's only two things in this life, and that is truth and then the tension of the truth. And I sometimes get these like voices that have these amazing messages that when I'm listening and I actually contemplate it, I'm noticing that we are actually channels, because where did that even come from? So then I started contemplating it. Yeah. I think so too. And I think art is a great vehicle for that. But I was thinking about what it meant, what would be the tension of the truth. And really, it's like whenever we're feeling without judgment, like there's going to be really shitty things that happen to our lives. We're going to go through breakups. Not everything is meant to be perfect all the time. But when there's a tension that arises, like a discomfort, then the question that then I ask myself is, what must I believe to be true for me to be feeling this?
Yes, I was just going
to say what must I believe to be true? To be feeling this.
There's the truth, and then there's your belief of what the truth should be, and your resistance or the tension is whatever's between them, right? So if you're resisting what is or what is actually true, then you're going to feel tension. If you're fully surrendered to it, then you're in flow, right? So we create our own tension.
Exactly. It's the Tao. The Tao is by far one of the most inspiring philosophies for me, and it is very difficult for me because I'm very resonant with the fact that we are conscious creators. So I always want to be creating, but also it's like 50% of our existence is to allow. It's just to damn allow for things to happen, and that's for me, that's the balance right there. It's like allow, create, allow, create, allow, create.
Yeah, and that's kind of the inner and the outer and the polarity you're talking about earlier. I think we need that contrast in life. It can't be all one thing or all the other. We need the contrast. And that's how we create these
Exactly.
amazing experiences. And that's what we're here to do, is just live, in my opinion, just experience new things, more of life. That's it. It's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Gaby Bonneville, this
Mm.
is so awesome. I really appreciate your time. I'm only going to ask you one more question before I let you go. And it's this: if you were to take all of your experiences, all the knowledge, all the wisdom you've gained, and distill it down into one message or one sentence, what would it be?
Mm. We are ultimately noble divinity.
Mm, beautiful. Gaby Bonneville, thank you
What would be
so much.
yours? Wait, I
What would
want
be
to hear
mine?
yours. Yeah.
Each of us is incredibly powerful, and we only need to remember how powerful we are and summon the courage to express it into the world. That would be mine.
Thank you for asking this question. And I hope whoever's listening is also turning around to the person next to them to ask them that same question right
Right?
now.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Thank you for
Yeah, it's a very
that
good
was
one.
great. Gaby, thank you so much. Do you want to let people know where they can find you and hear more about Momentum Collective and the community you're building?
Sure. Well, my personal information is Gaby Boop, Gaby underscore Boop on Instagram. And I love letting people know that they can reach out to me directly. I love being in touch with all of my followers or people that have interesting visions that they want to share with me. And then for Momentum Collective, it's like momentum with an OM at the end. So Momentum Collective. And if they're interested in, investing outside the matrix or have some inkling on wanting to take part of the organization team for such a beautiful project, go under home base and just fill out the questionnaire. And I'll get in touch with you. Me and my girls are going to get back in touch with you as soon as possible. And like my message too is just to keep being strong and to trust that everything is in divine perfection in all moments, and that we are working so hard right now, to be able to provide little pockets of alternate reality so that whenever it gets too rough on you, you've got a safe space with us. And that's my promise to everyone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. One thing that just came up when you said that, though, everything, I agree. And that's tough to digest for a lot of people. Like everything is in divine order right now, but that doesn't mean we should be apathetic, which means there should be some responsibility in taking positive action. And that can be as simple as creating meditation practice for yourself, be doing something to create better habits within yourself. So you're contributing to the whole in a positive direction through divinity.
Aho.
Aho.
What's the there's a saying that goes, the world is perfect in every way, along with my desire to change it.
Exactly. Boom. That's it. Perfect. Gaby Bonneville,
Yeah.
this has been super fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Patrick.